I am a single mother. The father left years ago. My son is 18 and will be going to college in the fall. I feel overwhelmed because there has not been a male role model for him for years. He has spent the summer in his room, sleeping irregular hours and playing video games. He does not help me enough at home, such as washing his dishes. I keep telling him and his sister how worn down I am because I want them to become increasingly independent. What does it mean to be a man to you, and how can I guide my son? Outside the home, my son has good friends and is a kind person. He has done exceptionally well academically. However, he lacks knowledge about manhood, true responsibility, and perseverance. He is soft, and I have been a permissive mother. I understand the hardships and difficulties of life and have overprotected him from them. It is never too late to offer hope. Story 1. I want to be completely honest here. As a man who grew up without a father figure and had to take on the role of head of the household at a very young age, I know how that pressure feels. It was very difficult. The unspoken expectation to man up made me feel like I was only valuable if I met those expectations. And when I didn't, I wasn't good enough. That mindset can damage your self-worth. Trust me, I am still working on it at 28 years old. I am not blaming you. Being a single mother is unbelievably hard, especially when the father is not in the picture. I have seen it firsthand with my own mother. You carry the whole world on your shoulders, and sometimes you just want someone to step up and help. But I suggest being careful with framing it as, how do I make him a better man? Because that framing can unintentionally add guilt and confusion onto a young man who is already unsure of who he is supposed to be. You mentioned he is sleeping poorly and gaming all summer. Honestly, those were early signs of depression in me. It might not be laziness or apathy, but something deeper. Therapy helped me immensely. In fact, my therapist became the father figure I never had. He showed me that you do not have to come from a perfect place to build something better. Your son might not need a lecture about being a better man. Maybe he just needs someone to help him understand and like himself first. That is the foundation everything else grows from. Story 2. Your son actually sounds like a pretty decent person. You sound unnecessarily judgmental of him, using words like soft. I hope you do not tell him that to his face, as that will definitely push him away from you. Also, your being worn down is not your children's responsibility. If you do not have a supportive partner, that is what other adult family members, friends, and therapists are for. Your children did not ask to have a single mother. You need to put on your own oxygen mask first. At this point, the best thing you can do is to let him go to college and figure things out without you hovering over him or judging him constantly. Be there for him if he needs you, but otherwise, let him make some mistakes and learn from them. When he does make those mistakes, be supportive instead of trying to force your ideas of being a man on him. Story 3. He needs a male role model. Telling your children how worn out you are is the exact opposite of what a good man would do. My father taught me that life is not fair and never will be, but I cannot be weak and let it stop me. He worked hard to set an example and never complained about it. He made sure I understood that I could make my own choices, but if I choose to be irresponsible, it will not end with me playing video games at 4 a.m. It will end with me under a bridge begging for food in the cold. Story 4. As a child of a single mother and now a father of 2 teenage boys, he has spent the summer in his room sleeping irregular hours and gaming. That's typical for most teenagers. Nothing unusual there. He doesn't help me enough at home, because he is your son, not your husband. It reminds me of the scene in the movie, Riding in Cars with Boys, where the mother says to the child, "We're supposed to be a team," and the child replies, "No, you are supposed to be the mother. I am supposed to be the child." I support giving a teenager chores and responsibilities, but this phrasing suggests you expect him to fill the husband role, which is unrealistic. Outside of the home, my son has good friends and is a good person. He did exceptionally well academically. By most people's standards, that is a success. However, he does not know certain adult responsibilities or true grit. He needs a mentor, an uncle, a grandfather, or a man who cares. Part of this is age-related. They think they know everything when they do not. When I was 18, I thought I was a man who did not need anyone telling me what to do anymore. A few years later, I realized how naive I was. This lesson repeated several times. Story 5. You cannot give your son fatherly advice or be a male role model on your own. You need to bring a man he respects into his life. Does he have a grandfather or someone he is close with? A teacher? A coach? A friend's father? Encourage that relationship to spend more time together. It will do him much more good than you trying to fill that role as well. Best of luck. Edit. Just to add this and ask, why did you wait this long to try to get him this help? He is an adult now. It will not be easy. Story 6. It sounds like you do not really want to help your son. You want to help yourself. You keep telling him how worn down you are. Why are you dumping on your kids like that? If you are making him feel like a burden, no wonder he is retreating. Get a therapist or a friend if you need to vent emotions. It is not your child's job to help you with that. I do not think your son needs a male role model. He probably needs therapy and possibly antidepressants. If you want to help him, lift him up and encourage him to seek help. Be there for him. It is not about the extra work he is creating for you. It is about the fact that he is depressed and hiding from life in video games. Story 7. Besides being inactive, you have not highlighted anything to be worried about. Just be open and tell him that he needs to take action. When it comes to gaming and sleeping, that is what he likes doing. There is nothing really wrong with that. Story 8. Nothing against you, but as someone who never knew my father, this question always feels condescending to both people who grew up with single mothers and actual single mothers. Did you not raise a decent child? Do you have so little faith in the moral fiber of your son that you don't think he can end up decent without one particular man with the label of dad telling him how to do it? Chances are he will be just fine. He has spent the summer in his room sleeping odd hours and gaming. He does not help me enough at home. I keep telling him and his sister how worn down I am. He is a teenager. As far as not helping around the house goes, that is not a missing father issue, and with all due respect, going on to your children about how worn down you are will not make them do things for you. If they were not taught to have discipline, they will not have it. I saw my mother work very hard and never complain once about it. That is where I learned my work ethic. And once I got older, I realized how much respect I had for her for that exact reason. I can honestly say that I have never seen not having a father in my life as a life-defining issue or felt that I was missing out on things that any of my friends with fathers had. Story 9. I keep telling them how worn I am. Have you tried direct and clear communication instead of dropping hints that you want him to get up and help? Story 10. I'm confused how being 18 and enjoying probably the last summer of being a kid he will ever have, doing what he wants, sleeping odd hours and playing video games, makes him a bad person. He is going to college. How are his grades? He has friends. Does he take care of his own chores? Does he have a job outside of school? What exactly do you think he needs to be doing more of at home? You are the parent. It is your job to take care of him, not the other way around. For the level of complaint you are making, you are giving very little information about what is actually happening. Story 11. 1. This was something you should have thought about when his father left. You clearly do not have good taste in men, so trying to mold him into your expectations of what a man should be is a pointless endeavor. Story 12. He is 18, a grown-up. This should have been done long ago. I understand that it is hard for a single mother to raise 2 children, but she cannot do everything. A fatherly figure should have been introduced a few years ago, such as a coach, a grandparent, or an uncle. It is now up to him to figure it out. Story 13. He is not your husband. He should be avoiding homework and sleeping late, like every teenager does. Do not make yourself a martyr. Sincerely, you sound like the horror story of a single mother and will make your son despise women. I know I had a mother just like you. Story 14. He sounds a lot like me a dozen years ago. If true, college will either shock him awake or knock him out for the count. I was lucky enough to have the former happen to me. Most professors will not chase him like a middle school teacher will. They have received their money. If he fails, he fails. That is not a criticism of colleges or universities. Your son should be very invested in his education. The first year is often a culture shock compared with the public schooling system. If he is, like me, he was probably quiet and smart enough to get by fairly well. The saving grace for me in university was that I was interested in the topics and liked my professors. I hope your son is as lucky and that he has not just picked some random program because he thinks it pays okay later. If there is one answer to what does it mean to be a man, I have not found it yet. Some people mention confidence, stoicism, duty, or you get the point. Hearing some high ideal of what a man can or should be is not bad. Sometimes that fantasy can be motivating and inspiring. In my experience, however, motivation and inspiration are fleeting. Important, but fleeting. Motivation can get your foot in the door, but it will not drag you to the gym 300 times a year. If any of what I have written resonates with you, the word that has helped me and can hopefully help your son the most is routine. I would use the word discipline, but some find that word scarier. Routine has helped me more than any amount of stoicism and the horse it came in on combined. Gaming until 3 a.m. is something I used to do a lot. I still do sometimes, but within reason because tomorrow I am conditioned to want to get my coffee at my local shop and go to the gym. I think that might start with a bit of responsibility. I do not know what kind of chores he can or might help with, but something as simple as needing him to wake up to watch his sister at 8 or 9 a.m. while you do groceries might make him second-guess pulling an all-nighter. The last bit might be more for you. I think you need to be more comfortable telling him, I need you to. I know it is a heavier mental load and can be exhausting, but even at my worst, when my mom was honest with me, I was happy to help, even a little. It might break him out of his shell. Good luck to him and to you. Story 15. He is going off to college in 2 months. He is gaming and retreating because he knows that his life is about to change entirely, and he is probably looking forward to a new beginning. He is just biding time waiting for the change. He wants nothing to do with you or the house that he is in. If he was not invested in helping out around the house previously, he certainly will not be now, knowing that he will be in a completely different place in 2 months. One of the best things you can do for him is to wake him up at a decent hour, like 8 a.m. I am assuming he is staying up until midnight or later and not waking up until 10 or 11. Get him on a regular schedule. His sleeping pattern will not do him any favors in college. This will show him you care about him and that you are invested in his success. It will be hard for him to argue against a little bit of discipline. Tell him you will wake him up at 8 no matter how late he stays up. Maybe make him a cup of coffee and introduce him to the wonderful world of coffee. Story 16. You should be far more worried about how society is going to treat him, especially at college. The discrimination he will face as well as in employment. There is nothing you can actually do, but perhaps you should give more credence to the words of people who have been talking about society's mistreatment of young men. Story 17. Kill them with kindness. The best thing you can give a young man is support from home and acceptance of who he is, regardless of how he decides to use his free time. If you want more help around the house, communicate it alongside the support you give his hobbies, such as gaming. Story 18. Have you tried talking to him and getting to know his interests? Do you know anything personal about him? Or did you neglect him until he turned 18? Story 19. He has spent the summer in his room sleeping at odd hours and gaming. This is normal for most 18-year-old boys. I did this. Actually, I still do this and I am a 38-year-old gainfully employed homeowner. He doesn't help me enough at home. I keep telling him and his sister how worn down I am. Are you asking him to help you directly? Or are you implying it by saying you are worn down and hoping he will understand? Often, women are more indirect with their communication. Men usually need things stated directly. So if you want help, ask him directly. I need more help around the house. Then give him specific chores and hold him accountable if he does not do them. What does it mean to be a man? And how can I guide my son? The answer differs depending on who you ask. For me, being a man means having compassion, empathy, and patience. It means doing hard things without expecting anything in return. It means protecting and providing for those you love to the best of your ability. It means treating everyone with respect, especially women, children, and the elderly. It means helping those who cannot help themselves. If you want your son to do certain things, Teach him. Talk to him about what you think makes a good man. Ask him what he thinks makes a good man. Ask him how he is trying to achieve those ideals each day. Give him honest feedback if he does something you disagree with morally or ethically. However, he does not know manly responsibilities or true grit. He is soft, and I have been a doormat as a mother. I know the grittiness and harshness of life and have overprotected him from it. I do not know anything about you or your son, but this sounds like projection. If your son is a happy, outgoing person, there is no need to suppress that brightness. He will face the darker parts of life in his own time, and your job is to be there for him and support him when it happens. Everything else will occur naturally as he grows. Just teach him to be a good person, and the rest will take care of itself. Story 20. Sorry, but in this post you have basically complained that he is not helping you with parenting duties and called him soft. Just because you are a single mother does not mean he should be treated as less mature. Just because you do not understand his hobbies does not mean they are a less valid way of spending his time. His sleep schedule and gaming clearly are not affecting his life negatively, as he is successful with friends and education. It sounds like you hold sexist views about what a man should be, and you are attempting to parentify your child while holding his failures to meet these standards against him. Story 21. Out of the box thinking here, but firstly, the other commenters are right. You are too late, mostly. However, you will not get a message through to him with "be a man" because you are a woman. When a woman says that, it is an insult. When a good man says it, it is a challenge, a goal, something to live up to. Here is my idea. Find a local men's sheds association group. These are community groups where typically older men get together to do activities like woodworking. Since these are typically older men, you may not convince your son to attend their meetings, but if you go yourself, you could inquire if any of these men are interested in helping you teach your son what it means to be a man. If you find someone willing, from there it is up to the two of you. Ask yourself, how do I get my son to meet you? And, are there any common interests you both have that could be a way in? Figure out if the person is willing to come to your house and help your son repair the garden fence or do something similar. Could be a good idea or a terrible one, but it is an idea. Story 22. Wait, so he is doing well in school, has a good social group, but you are worried about sleeping oddly and gaming? Sounds like he is doing fine to me. I used to go to bed around 5 a.m. and sleep until 4 p.m. when I was in college on weekends, and I did well in school. I have a good job, own a home, have a wife and child, and still have irregular sleep hours and play games often. Story 23. So my dad died when I was 7 in 1978, and I became a man fast. Splitting firewood at 11, putting the snowplow on the tractor when I was 12. I just think today's society does not have to experience such things, and good for them if they do not have to live as I did. Story 24. I gave my son the 12 rules of life, and that really helped him when he was in college. It made a big difference. Story 25. Sit down with him and ask what his goals are in life. Ask what he dreams about, what sort of car he wants to drive, what kind of partner he desires, and what type of job he wants. Then ask how he can build toward those goals over the summer and offer suggestions based on your experience. You are helping him figure out what he wants to do and how to get there, not doing it for him. Ask how he plans to get from here to there. Have him write these things down. Then ask how his projects are progressing. The key is not to do it for him, but to remind him of his goals. Time will fly by, so encourage him to improve himself with his goals. Remind him that you have advice if he wants it, but do not offer it. Just ask how things are going. You are helping him map the way to the water and asking if he is thirsty, not taking him there and trying to get him to drink. Story 26. He needed a role model years ago. Of course, it is not too late, but he is unlikely to put much stock into your opinions at this late date. If he is struggling to face his future, joining the military before college could be the motivation he needs. Story 27. Does he work? If nothing else, make him try to get a fast food job or something for the summer. These jobs are often a first job for many people and are prepared to teach how to work. Story 28. That age is difficult. He will grow and start becoming independent, but the "be a man" idea is nonsense. I found that age challenging, and I was raised by a single mother on a council estate. I was lucky to have a friend or two who would drag me out to start drinking and socializing. I also started working, which greatly helped me come out of my shell. Encourage him to socialize and work. Story 29. Unless I am missing something, what you described does not sound like a big deal. You are concerned he does not have perseverance or no traditional masculine skills, but he is only 18. He has literally been an adult for less than a year. It is not unusual for a teenager to sleep a lot and play video games during summer vacation. You said he does very well academically and is going to college. That is great. Seems he is on a good path. Do not worry that he is not a full-fledged adult at 18. None of us were. Just continue to love and encourage him. He will find his path. When it comes to helping around the house, yes, he should absolutely be contributing, but that is a different matter. Story 30. It is a bit late now, as I run a program at my school for these types of kids. My father passed away when I was 11, and people often underestimate the value of positive male role models in a young man's life. Research shows that the younger the better. I am saying this mostly for people earlier in your situation. My only advice is to find a family member or friend whom he respects to sit down with him and have a talk. Studies reveal that young boys have been overlooked because people assume they will be fine. Society often encourages them to act in ways that many are not naturally wired for, which creates a bigger problem. Story 31. Like others have pointed out, you probably should have tried to do this about 18 years ago, but there are some advantages to having waited this long. Just tell him that you realize he would benefit from a close male role model or influence that he could lean on during moments when a father's support might be helpful. He may not fully appreciate it right now, but if you encourage him to try to build that relationship, there is a good chance that at some point he will understand what you are saying, lean into it, and appreciate you even more for being humble enough to recognize that you could be the best single mother ever, but that cannot replace a positive male influence for him. Story 32. The concept of being a man and learning perseverance has been labeled as toxic masculinity for too long. Boys are growing up to be compassionate and caring men instead. Story 33. Sometimes people can surprise you. Those who seem soft may get a taste of life and become responsible individuals. When I was a teenager, my best friend was the laziest person I had ever met. He refused to get a job and lived with his parents until he was 25. He never had a girlfriend. Then one year he decided to change his ways. He got a job and worked very hard. He bought a vehicle and purchased a house. I was wrong about him, completely wrong. I think he simply took a look around at 25 and realized he did not like what he saw. I agree that, in most cases, a strong work ethic must be instilled during childhood. Story 34. If you keep putting this pressure on him to be a man and help his parents' household instead of forming his own, be ready to have him resent you and never speak with you again. Your son is not your husband. He owes nothing to you. I strongly advise against trying to push him into the role of man of your house. Instead, allow him to be the man of his own. Story 35. I'm 17, and both my parents have checked out years ago. I'd say the only way is to make him do the things you do and pretend that you are him. That's what my aunt did to me after my grandma, who was my guardian, passed away. It works. If he complains, don't go soft on him. After a week, he should have a new perspective. That's just how my aunt did it to me. I'm not going to say it works 100%, but it should help. Everyone is different. Story 36. You need to teach him to take care of himself. You need to teach your other child this critical life skill as well. This is done quite simply. Stop doing things for them. When they make mistakes, that is their problem. When they make a mess, that is also their problem. It is best to teach children this when they first start crawling, but it is never too late. The problem is that women often clean up the mess themselves rather than teaching their children how to do it. In my experience, men do not have this problem. They have to convince their wives to let the child learn. The best time to start teaching your child responsibility is when they start crawling. The second best time is now. Story 37. The time has passed. How did you do when he was a young boy? That will influence how he does as a man, but it is not a guarantee. I had a horrible childhood and turned out okay. My childhood best friend, who had a similar experience, died of a drug overdose. Story 38. You have not indicated anything that actually needs concern. There is a chance that the child might be depressed. Odd hours of sleep and throwing himself into gaming can be a sign of that, as can laziness and lack of consideration. Or maybe he is just a teenager trying to enjoy his last real summer before real life starts. I was very similar the summer before I went to university. Ask him to go to therapy. When he wants a reason, tell him that the ages 18 to 25 are when most mental health issues make themselves known, so it is better to be safe than sorry. Has he had a job at all yet? Story 39. I was like him as a child with both parents, and I am fine now. College will be a wake-up call, as it is for many students. He will have some difficult moments, but also many great experiences. The best you can do now is to prepare him for it. I think you should have him cook one meal a week. He needs to plan in advance so you can buy the groceries, and then he is the head chef for the meal with your help if you choose to assist. If he does not plan, he does not eat, and you and your daughter can have a nice dinner without him, such as ordering pizza or something he would enjoy. You could help him by providing some recipes to choose from so that you can teach him and know what to buy. This way, he will learn to plan ahead, budget resources, take responsibility, and cook. Cooking and baking are skills I have used to connect with others. The goal is that by the end of the summer, he has some recipes he can prepare independently. You could even make a small cookbook of your family's favorite recipes as a gift. Story 40. Ignore the comments that say it is too late. My father was a horrible role model in some ways. I turned out decent because I learned a lot of what not to do from him. That is not to say he did not teach me good things as well. A good part of my development came after age 18, from television, music, and personal interaction with other people. At 40, I am still trying to figure out how to be a man because it keeps changing, and there is a lot I have not experienced. And because I keep changing, I think everyone has their own idea of what it means to be a man. I am sure you did your best. But something I have learned over the years, reinforced by interacting with my nieces over the last couple of years and trying to show them an example of a good man in a way different from their father, and trying to help him guide them to be good women without a mother, is that it does not matter how hard you try. People are individuals and will ultimately do what they want. They will do what they decide. The most we can do is try to guide them along what our experience says is the best path and hope they are receptive to it. Story 41. He is 18 and leaving your home in 2 to 5 months. There is no role model you can find nor meaningful changes you can make and cultivate in him that would be effective in that time frame. He is an adult now. The time for dictating role models and preaching guidance has more or less passed. He will seek out role models of his own to guide him as he sees fit. He will still come to you for guidance when he needs it. I do not think there is much change you can usefully make at this point beyond giving whatever you would normally do for him in his circumstances. Story 42. A good start would probably be not assuming he needs to be a better man. There is no specific knowledge required to be a man, and you do not need to take on responsibility or have grit to be a real man. Story 43. Things like budgeting, cooking, laundry, or basic house and car care are useful and necessary. There are practical adulting classes that people in their 20s and 30s are signing up for due to a lack of these skills. In truth, you cannot father him, but the best you can do is work together to impart practical life knowledge. You can try to co-adult with him and let him know this is what it takes to manage life, unless he can make enough money for someone else to do these things while he remains ignorant. Hopefully, when he gets to university, he can find peer groups and male friends to learn from and participate in typical guy activities. A friend whose child recently went to university noted that many college men are so lacking in these experiences that assertive personalities often attract needy, underdeveloped males seeking what they have missed. He must avoid isolation and failure. He needs to find his drive and good influences. Story 44. Contrary to the comments, I do not think it is too late, but you need to set some boundaries and communicate actively with him. You have to put your foot down and constantly remind him that you want him to improve his life. It may cause some pain in your relationship, but it is better to try than to let him remain the same forever. Story 45. A lot of guys find male role models in characters, friends, coworkers, and their dad, if they have one. A good dad is hard to replace as a role model from day one, but I think everyone will naturally find someone to look up to one way or another. You being a good female role model is just as important, since a large part of growing up as a man is figuring out how to treat women, especially, and others in general. It sounds like you care about him a lot and worry about his future, which is something some people do not get from their mothers, so he is lucky in that respect. The reality is that most of his development is actually about to begin now that he is on his own. The values you have instilled in him will serve as a guide to help him navigate the difficulties life will naturally provide. Overcoming those difficulties with your teachings within him is how he will grow. Story 46. Your son probably could have used a male role model that we can agree on. While he is already developed as a person and any potential damage caused by parenting him is done, it is also not too late for him to become better. Most people are not as inexperienced as they were when they were 18. It is not too late that we agree on. However, there is nothing wrong with your son sleeping unusual hours, gaming, or being sensitive. Your son also does not need to learn traditionally masculine skills or toughness. If your son truly is not a responsible person, then yes, that is unfortunate and he will have to learn eventually. But many people are still not responsible by that age, and more importantly, telling your child that you are worn down will never teach them that skill. To answer your question more directly, I think a good man is someone who knows himself and his strengths, is respectful to everyone he meets, keeps and makes good company, and tries to step up for loved ones when asked. If your son is a good person, makes good friends, and does well academically, then it sounds like he is already on the right track. The only thing that sounds potentially problematic is that he might not pull his weight with chores, but I do not know your expectations or how your household delegates chores. This is not necessarily a reflection on his character. I do not know enough to make that judgment call. However, it seems like a fine enough young man is making it to college, even though he did not have a father, and he really does not need to change as much as you think. Story 47. Wow, a lot of people are acting like an 18-year-old's life is set in stone. I recommend therapy to find life direction or goals. This is not meant to be mean, but it can be great for getting unstuck. At 18, I would make that a condition of staying there. Story 48. He is 18 and it is too late for that. Why do you think he would start listening to you now? Suggest that he join as many college clubs as he can so he can learn from the other boys and create friendships. Maybe that will help. Story 49. You might not read this, but this is a teenager problem, not that he did not have a male role model. He will grow up. Just hope he keeps doing well academically and earns the degree. Someday he will eventually get a normal sleep cycle as well. Don't worry. Story 50. I'll be completely honest with you, Mom. This is not a repository of good and decent men brimming with deep and mature perspectives on life and its struggles. It has always been a little strange around here, but it has gotten significantly worse since many of these individuals' home communities were closed down. Half of us will be too busy mocking you to be helpful. Half of the remainder will say it's too late for him and that he is ruined at 18, and then mock you. This place is somewhat of a cesspool of men going their own way, refugees and nihilistic individuals venting angrily about not receiving their expected share of attention and affection. Try the Broke Hill community for less hostile responses. Honestly, the place is so intense you might need some relief afterward, but maybe you won't be as overwhelmed with bitterness and schadenfreude. Story 51. He should get a job and a girlfriend as soon as possible. That way, he will not only be hitting important developmental milestones and gaining valuable experience in the ways of the world, but he will also gain additional responsibilities that should make him feel useful. I also grew up as the child of a single mother, and I think avoiding work and relationships when I was at that age set me back too far. I never really recovered from it. Story 52. Since the father is no longer in the picture, you need to find a male role model to fill the gap, such as an uncle, brother, cousin, or grandfather. You can also try to get him involved in a group or club where he might find positive male role models like martial arts, weightlifting, or a firearms safety club. Does he have a job? You could consider helping him find work, learning a trade, or assisting with similar types of jobs. Story 53. 18 is a bit late in life to become a better man, but it is not a totally done deal. Legally a man now, but still a baby in other ways. Steer him into the trades for summer jobs, maybe. This teaches a good work ethic, resilience, and structure. Encourage time spent with a good man, you know. You must have someone who would make a good role model. He is not a criminal, so you have done the big job already. It sounds like he just needs a firmer hand to help shape him up a bit. Story 54. I do not know how, but he needs male mentorship. He needs someone that he trusts and respects to show him how to handle himself. Finding a girl that he wants to impress also helps motivate a young man. Story 55. At 18, all you can be is a safe haven and a source of good advice. He is going to have to figure it out on his own because your active role is over. Story 56. All you can do is sit down and have a tough talk. Tell him you are just another person living life and you cannot keep doing it all alone. You have been there for him and helped him. You are not setting an expectation as a disciplinarian mother. You are asking him to step up as a son and as a man. Life will not be easy forever. While he is young enough to still want to enjoy gaming and figuring life out, he needs to start putting one foot in front of the other to provide himself with a quality of life and make you proud. Story 57. You say he doesn't know responsibility. What have you made him responsible for? If he does nothing around the house, then you need to sit him down with clear expectations. I need you to do the dishes every day and walk the dog. If you don't, these are the consequences. The hardest part for me was the shift in dynamics from my children being kids to becoming adults. He's not your equal, but he's also not 10 anymore. It's okay to have an adult conversation with him and not just talk to him. Story 58. Unless he wants to make changes in his life, the time has passed. It is possible he could join the military or do other things that will harden him and make him more masculine, but that is on him at this point. He is an adult now. The time for this guidance has come about a decade too late. Story 59. It is not the teenage son's job to provide affirmation and be a pillar for his mother. That is the husband's job, and it sounds like he walked out. Story 60. Masculinity is a social construct. If you want him to learn skills, you need to learn so you can teach him or learn with him. My mom is a single mother and taught me how to change oil, skateboard, lay flooring, operate a table saw, and more. These are skills people around us had, but no one cared to raise someone else's child for them. I never had a male role model, and I am fulfilled in my life. I can be a role model for my son. All you can do is do better than you have before. Story 61. Sadly, it is a bit late to teach him the basic characteristics. He has already grown into who he is. College life might change him, but there is nothing you can do anymore. Story 62. You cannot. He is an adult now, teenager or not. You failed to teach him values you find important and allowed him to walk all over you instead of instilling what it means to be a man when he would have accepted it. Sit him down, tell him your concerns, and it is up to him whether he decides to change. You do not have much of a say anymore. It is also not his fault that you failed to find a suitable partner in the meantime. You being worn down is not his fault or responsibility to fix. You are a grown woman. Story 63. At this point, he needs a dose of reality to learn how to take care of himself. It sounds harsh, but you will not be able to coddle him out of a lack of self-sufficiency. Be there to guide him, but not to do things for him. Story 64. Is he moving out for college? So he will be forced to live on his own. Assuming you are already covering tuition or part of it, he needs to get a side job to help pay his own bills and expenses. A man must help provide and contribute. He should also be physically active to strengthen his mind and body. At 18, it is not too late, but it is harder to instill these habits. Encourage him by suggesting activities, such as saying, I heard about this fun race. You should try to do it. Story 65. Proverbs and Matthew. James, if the four Gospels are difficult. The toxic masculinity is taught in Paul's letters. I find rejecting Paul to be much easier the more I learn about Jesus. Just letting you know in case you think the whole Bible is sexist. The vast majority is not sexist at all, but firmly egalitarian like me. Most churches are quite sexist because they worship Paul even more than they worship God, Jesus, James, or the apostles. I like to ask their pastors to think about Paul with me. I usually get thrown out, sometimes even threatened with deadly weapons. So you can trust me, those 3 books are good even if most priests and pastors do not take them seriously. Story 66. You are asking the internet for advice because he is too soft. Imagine if someone asked for advice because their daughter was too assertive. His softness is not weakness, and you need to stop behaving like it is. Story 67. If he is already 18 and will be leaving the house for college in 2 months, the only thing you can do is let him know that he can call or text you with any questions he has about living on his own. Make sure he understands that what he is about to face will be difficult, but he and billions before him will find his own path. Support him when he struggles, answer his questions, let him know that he is an adult, but you are still there if he needs it. And hope or pray that the parenting you have already done was sufficient, because it is too late now to change anything. Story 68. You seem like a caring mother. Any psychologist will tell you that boys need a male role model in their lives from ages 7 to 18. He would have benefited from being close to an uncle, grandfather, or family friend. You should have done something sooner. Story 69. It's too late now. Boys need a father figure who has their back, giving them the feeling they are allowed to develop into a man. Children need their mothers primarily until age 7. After that, a father becomes very important, especially for boys and even more so during puberty. By the age of 4, most psychological foundations are established. Around age 13, development is mostly complete. After that, we must consciously and voluntarily take control of our own development. I grew up without a father, and I know how tough it is and how far behind one can be compared to others who had their father. But regardless, a boy must take over the reins and become his own man, with or without help and support. Story 70. He will need to find a male role model whose example inspires him to improve. For me, that was when I was 21. I started working in a laboratory with a brilliant neuroscientist as the principal investigator. I worked with him for 4 years and decided I wanted to become the kind of leader he was. Now I am pursuing my Doctor of Medicine and Doctor of Philosophy degrees. I never would have done such a thing otherwise. It is too late for you to do that for him. Story 71. Set the standard by being one yourself. At his age, he knows the basics. Now it is time for him to improve and move forward. Story 72. Get him involved in sports or church, where he can interact with other boys. Boys will always check themselves, and coaches or church youth leaders can be great role models. Of course, when such options are presented, 9 times out of 10 he will not take them up, so I advise a firm hand. Story 73. Here is a sad truth. When I was his age, I was so headstrong that I thought I knew what I needed to know. It really took life breaking me down to learn these lessons. To put it simply, I had been enabled to be dismissive and headstrong. I would personally say, shake things up, put rules or chores in place so they have to help you since they live under your roof. Sometimes tough love is what it takes. My parents were Marines, and my dad was a pretty average role model, but I mostly just wanted to be free from their rules. When I left and started camping and couch surfing, I quickly realized how good I had it. I chose to leave. My parents did not make me. They did not want me to leave. But ultimately, I needed to get away to understand what I had. It sounds like he is complacent and not exactly living, just existing. Challenging that mentality is the only way to break it, in my opinion. Story 74. It is going to be very tough to introduce chores now. 18-year-olds are not exactly cooperative. Sit them both down one night and tell them that there will now be a distributed chore list of what each is responsible for. Explain it clearly as if they have never heard of the concept of housework. You then have to get used to enforcing the times they should be doing their chores and verifying they are done each time. At first, this will require more work than doing it yourself. Since he is a gamer, you can encourage cooperation by tying completion of chores to Wi-Fi access. Change the password until the chores are done. You will only need to do this a couple of times. Then simply asking, "Are your chores done? Or do I have to cut access so you can focus?" should be enough. Story 75. Bluntly, there is no fixed definition of what it means to be a man. Regardless of gender, an adult needs to be able to sustain themselves. It might seem harsh, but this is the age when a person can start contributing to the household financially or through maintenance. If they do not want to contribute, the breaker box can be switched and locked, the refrigerator can be locked, and Wi-Fi can have a password set. You can let them have a place to sleep, bathe, and do laundry themselves, but you do not need to provide anything else. If they choose to contribute with chores, be mindful of the specific tasks. Tasks that benefit them will likely be easier to complete properly than something like mowing the lawn or cleaning the living room. Story 76. He is 18. There is nothing left to teach him. You can hope that your upbringing gave him a good foundation to learn on his own. Story 77. I will say this is pretty typical and normal for someone his age. We are all slow around that time. Hate to say it, but he will grow out of it. As long as that is the worst of it, I think you are doing okay, though I understand it is frustrating. Source. I was exactly the same at that age. Story 78. My son is the same way, and I have been trying most of his life before just giving up in his high school years. This child cannot work a screwdriver. He does well in school and plans to be a dentist, so he can hire a landscaper and a handyman when he needs them. You cannot make children be what you want them to be. They are going to be who they are. Story 79. If he is the oldest and already apathetic toward you and his sister, it is not going to change over the summer. Maybe not even after college either, to be honest. My dad was present throughout my life, and I am grateful for the examples he set, but your role as a mother was and still is powerful. Just not as potent now that he is technically an adult. My mother guilt-tripped me hard whenever I did not help her. So much so that it strained our relationship. However, it did instill in me the habit of thinking about others and seeing where I could help before they even had the courage to ask. So try it. Story 80. I'm not going to criticize like others have. He is likely not completely without male role models unless every teacher, school club sponsor, and coach he has ever had has been female. Take him out to a nice dinner and, while sitting at the table, tell him you have some things to discuss. Explain that he is 18 years old and an adult. As such, his professors will expect him to attend class without prompting, his project partners will expect him to contribute his share of work, and his roommates will expect him to keep up with his part of the cleaning around the dorm or apartment. Also remind him that as a resident of the home, adults are expected to do their own laundry, wash their own dishes, clean the rooms they use, and contribute as part of the community. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.